Nicholas vs. Okoye seems pretty cool, right? Actually, I'm not interested anymore. There is something happening in the background that is earning more of my attention. Although I'm excited to see two psychopaths fight to the death, it is about time that we think about what will happen after this tournament. You have read the title. I believe there will be a retrieval arc as the next big true line in Kengan Omega. But to reach a retrieval arc, I will have to explain why the tournament is bad, my predictions, and how the arc will begin. From the moment the Kengan vs. Purgatory tournament was announced, I found it weird that the Kengan Association wasn't able to enlist all of their heaviest hitters. I expected most fighters who attained a position in the quarterfinals to join the tournament because they all have proof of their power, whereas Atsumi, his attributes are pretty unique from the rest of the fighters. Whereas Mikazuchi, his speed plus Sunfire would give him an edge. Kuroki Gensai, I guess he just wanted to spectate. Cosmo, he's a no-brainer, why isn't he here? Purposefully leaving these characters out of the tournament is suspicious. It instilled that this tournament isn't simply a tournament, and that there will be things given more importance over the tournament itself. Meaning, it is simply an excuse to set up things in the future. As proof, the first 4 fights seemed completely ordinary considering Purgatory's rules and whatnot. But starting from the 5th and onwards, we have been given lots of plot dumps. Nidon vs. Ryuki. Ryuki is identified by the worm-affiliated A-list gladiator as Omega, the last child, and the Connector, terms which we didn't understand at the time. But then we get Lucien vs. Agito, which cleared up some things about the Tokita Nico, who was in cahoots with both the Worm and Edward Wu. Then, we got Alan vs. Ryan, which introduced the resentment the Curry clan has toward Edward Wu and the Huising, an ancient brainwashing technique created by the Wu clan. It involves repeating the same events over and over again to a connector, which is defined as someone who is younger than the speaker and has a close blood relationship with them. This repetition causes the speaker's identity to be transferred into the connector's body, causing this pseudo-immortality. Then in Zeroda vs. Hayami, we discovered that Hayami Masaki, Miguru's clone, was performing Huising by listening to Miguru's murder confession over and over again. Clearly, the purpose of having this tournament isn't to satisfy the fans, but to provide context for future events. It is also emphasized to the fact that there are many events that are happening at once. These being Setsuna comforting Ryuki, Ryan hunting down Edward Wu, and Idemitsu's call with Mutaba. After Ryuki murdered Nidon Monkbot, Idemitsu called Mutaba for a job. Needless to say, Idemitsu is a rich man, and Mutaba is probably on the prowl and preparing to complete his mission. As for Ryuki, he was overcome by guilt because he swore to Narushima Koga that he wouldn't kill his opponent. But then out of nowhere we get a cameo from Kiryu Setsuna. Setsuna is a complete madman who seems to have chilled down a little bit, but still, he is a guy who cannot be trusted to counsel Ryuki. He is notorious for his fanatical judgment and his hallucinations. Kiryu Setsuna is bad news, and considering Ryuki's mental turmoil, he is in no condition to thwart his advances. Afterwards, during Kuro Ryan's fight with Alan Wu, he notices Edward Wu near the periphery of the ring. It is at this point he remembers what his father had said regarding Edward's betrayal towards the Wu and Curry clans. Thus, Ryan executes his opponent and chases after Edward. To this day, it is said that he continues to chase him. Setsuna is trying to abduct Ryuki, either for his own purposes or because he is affiliated with the Worm. Setsuna is most likely a Worm because he himself was a cloned individual, and although he has had little interaction with the Worm, no other organization would take him underneath their wing. If Setsuna is abducting Ryuki, he is not doing it through force, but through persuasion. And taking Ryuki's mindset into consideration, Setsuna's plan should go off without a hitch. However, before Setsuna is able to escape, Mutaba will intercept them. Although we were never given the full details surrounding Idemitsu's call, Idemitsu hired Muteba after Ryuki killed his opponent, so this heavily implied that it has something to do with Ryuki. Since Muteba is really good at killing, Muteba was obviously sent to eliminate Gao Ryuki. But because Setsuna is here to abduct Ryuki, Setsuna and Muteba will be fighting each other. This would be a nice opportunity to see what Setsuna has done for the past 2 years, because his skills before now would not be enough to defeat Muteba. Shameless plug, I've covered this matchup right here. If I am correct, Setsuna would have to gain something to overcome Muteba, or something that threatens him so badly that he thinks twice before advancing against him. Due to this new technique, or a new style that Setsuna has created, Muteba is forced to back down. Thus, I see Setsuna successfully abducting Ryuki. Now, for the Curry, Wu, and Westward faction subplot, I believe we will see a brief clash between Edward Wu and Curry Ryan. Although Edward Wu seems completely chill with hanging around in the Purgatory Stadium, I think the only thing on his mind is escaping. His confidence is such because he might have a foolproof escape plan. Since Curry Ryan has a head start, we may witness a brief exchange between Edward and Ryan. Although Alan Wu is easy to kill, I cannot say the same for Edward. Edward Wu, after all, has the full attention of the Curry clan. Therefore, he must be packing some serious power. So I've come to the conclusion that Edward would absolutely demolish Ryan. Ryan ain't no slouch, but he doesn't have his removal. He already used it. In terms of build, Edward does outclass him, and in terms of technique, Edward seems older than Ryan, and he still has access to his Guhan. Thus, I see Edward defeating Ryan, and getting out scot-free before the other Currys and Mitsudo's army reach him. So if my predictions are correct, which most of the time they are not, but if they are, this means Ryuki gets abducted, and Edward Wu escapes. I believe that these two events are enough to fuel another arc. Now let's discuss that arc in particular. As the name suggests, this arc centers around saving Ryuki from the worm. After Oma most likely defeats the Tiger's vessel, the Kengan Association and its fighters will be notified of Ryuki's absence by the Heavenly Wolf's Fist captain, Nikaido Ren, who was trailing Setsuna the entire time. This is fair because Nikaido has become less of a combatant and serves as an intel operative for Mitsudo. But before the Kengan Association can take any action, they will need to return to their facilities. Once they have returned, they will use their resources to figure out the whereabouts of their kidnapped fighter and information surrounding the headquarters of the worm. They will do this by interrogating Jiaji, the poor guy that was stuck with Edward. The Curry clan and Wu clan will also be involved in this search because it may lead to Edward's trail. During this pause, it will be a good opportunity to expand upon the grief the Narasimha Koga and Yamashita Kazuo would feel after losing a member of their family. When the time comes for the Kengan Association to take action, they will infiltrate the Worm HQ with a small team to ensure swift retrieval. Sending all of Mitsudo's forces plus the combined force of the Curry and Wu clan would attract a ton of attention and would cause them to retreat into their hundreds or thousands of underground facilities littered throughout China. So a small team will do. This team would most likely consist of members of the Heavenly Wolf's Fist, but the most standout members would be Tokita Oma, Curry Ryan, and Katara Retsudo. The Heavenly Wolf's Fist would have tons of knowledge of the Chinese mainland and would act as navigators. Tokita Oma would have an investment in this arc because he is responsible for Kiryu Setsuna and wishes to end their long drawn out relationship. Curry Ryan will also be a part of this team due to his power, but also his grudge against Edward Wu. Katara Retsudo will be a member of this team because he will need to be there to control Oma and Ryan from going completely gung-ho. Narasimha Koga may not be allowed on this expedition, but he will find a way to join them, perhaps by sneaking aboard the vessel used to take the team to China. Along the way, I can see Hatsumi Senzo in the group. After all, he was last seen in China, so this could be a way for him to return back into the series. I wouldn't include any other members because they're either irrelevant or have far too much recognition, like Mitsuda's personal bodyguards. They're simply too large for the expedition and would attract attention. The same will probably go for Ajito. But even without them, this team would be pretty powerful. Narushima Koga has his Fist Eye, enabling the group to quickly figure out what their enemies are doing. Tokita Oma is a fighter who has struck a balance between soft and hard power with his Nico style. Rayon is Rayon. Hatsumi Sen has an extreme focus towards soft power. And Retsuda might be very well versed into close combat like Misasa, or it might be skilled at using weapons like guns or rifles. This is the extent of my predictions for the future of Kengan Omega. Although I cannot say for certain whether all of these things will happen, I'm very much enticed with the idea of this small group invading unknown territory. If spun correctly, it would be a very interesting arc that would be different from what we're used to. Aside from that, during this arc we will get more information surrounding the head of the worm, and even more about Gao Mukaku. Because of the way the story is heading, it seems more and more likely that Mukaku's ambition to reunite the inside has something to do with Ryuki being Mukaku's hoisting recipient. So by the end of this arc, Ryuki may be no more. In conclusion, Kengan Omega is gearing up for something new. The story will not end with the tournament, but will have a more momentous climax revolving around the characters. Do you think Kengan Omega will begin a retrieval arc? I believe this sort of thing is not something a martial arts manga would be able to perform, but it is a pretty neat idea. Any agreeers? Be sure to comment down below. Hi, it's the cyborg whale named after Italian cheese and a dessert item. Thanks for watching. If you like Kengan content like this, please subscribe, because I'll do more in the future. And as always, have a good day. Later everybody.